What up, what up, what up, everybody? Welcome back to Today's the Day with Zack Andersen. Let's get into it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Today's the Day with Zack Andersen. What up, what up, what up? Welcome to Today's the Day. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Today's the Day. Much love to everybody. Today's the day. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Today's the Day. I'm so freaking excited for our guest today. This is one of my very, very best friends, somebody that I've connected with a lot over the last few years, and I've got to go and watch kind of in his element in a really cool way, and I've learned a ton from. So just a quick intro on Finn. We have Finn Bryan with us today. Quick intro on Finn. Starting out early. At age 3, Finn started playing soccer, believe it or not, at age 3, which I don't even know how it's possible. Played all the way up through high school, got into extreme sports, loves motocross, loves snowboarding, so on and so forth. Since high school has gone and started multiple different companies. One of his, I believe, was a drop shipping company. Got up to almost $1 million in revenue a year. And then since then, he's been a part of a lot of projects. I've seen him go and kind of extract the most out of life. Not only in a business sense, but a lot of other senses as well, which is what I'm super excited to dive into and talk about. And then just recently, over the last year, had an idea, went and executed extremely quickly on it, and is now running a fully functional, custom cold plunge company, right? Where basically you're going out and you're producing an extremely luxury, custom, cool plunge for people, and it's called King Cool, correct?
Correct.
So super excited to have Finn. I'm excited to dive into it. Let's rock and roll. So Finn, welcome, bro. I'm stoked to have you. Let's kind of throw it way back, like way back. I just want to get a little more background, because this is my first time hearing and understanding some of this stuff. So started soccer at age 3, correct?
Yeah.
Played all the way through high school.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. And then getting into extreme sports, everything like that. That's kind of the phase of your life that I've known you. Motocross, everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
Coming up, was that all influenced from dad, friends? What was that?
Yeah, kind of from dad and friends. My dad put me on a moto pretty early, and that was his, he loved to do that stuff as well. So I grew up riding with him and friends, and that led into snowboarding, that led into skateboarding, and I don't know, it was something I just loved to do for a while. So
I love it. And you still rip. I mean, you still snowboard, you still moto. We go ride sometimes together, which is a blast. So there's a lot of really cool things. When I was going and looking at like, okay, what do I want to go and talk about with Finn? You go and you have this incredible skill set. And this is kind of the first thing I want to go and talk about, where no matter the situation and no matter what, you seem to go create value out of thin air, at least since I've known you. Like, you are always not like I don't want to say side hustling, but you always have something going where it's like, holy crap, this dude, cause I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I have never known you to have a 9-to-5 ever, right? In the last 5 years.
that is true. Yeah.
Right. But you have always gone and found ways to just kind of create value out of thin air. And I think that's one of that is the most impressive thing to me, because a lot of people want to go and do that, and they want to avoid that 9-to-5. They want to be able to go and do kind of what they want to do on the side as far as extreme sports. That's why I bring that stuff up, go and enjoy their life. But they're stuck working and making sure they're paying their bills and everything like that. So my question for you out the gates is mostly, at what point in life did you go and realize, okay, I can just create value, and based off of that, that's where I'm going to go and be compensated? Because that's a really really, really, really important thing to go and learn at any point in life. The value you create is the compensation you're going to go and receive. When did when did that switch flip?
I'll probably bring it back to high school. I actually did have, a little high school job that I worked, 4 hours a day at. But in the middle of that, I also created a little clothing company with a buddy of mine, Nate Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called Kind. And
I actually remember that.
Yeah, we created
holy crap,
some beanies and some jean jackets and stuff like that, and we made a decent amount of money. And that was when it all started. Like, dang, I can make some money without having to check into somebody
Mm-hmm.
or clock in and clock out, things like that. So that's
Totally.
kind of where it all started. And then shortly after the mission and whatnot, I uh, first got to know my now wife Ellie, and I got to know her family, and they ran a very successful salt business, aromatherapy business. And they were mainly in the industry of selling direct to like wholesale
Mm-hmm.
and retail. But they didn't really hit the direct to consumer point. And so I saw that there was a gap there,
Mm-hmm.
and they had created an Amazon store that did sell direct to consumer, but it was struggling, and they were thinking of closing it up. And I told my father-in-law, hey, let me take a shot at it. Let me see if this sister company that's gonna hit direct to consumer, let's see if we can make something work. And so I gave it a shot, and within the first year, we did amazing, enough to obviously keep the doors open on the little sister company, Relax Spa and Bath, and it went well. And then the next year went amazing. The year after that, doubled again. Third year, even better. And so I found that, okay, this is something that, again, I can make something out of
Yeah.
almost nothing. We were there about to close the doors,
Yeah.
and so
Just
that's kind of where it all opened up for me.
exactly. So I think the reason I bring that up and the reason I'm so excited to talk to you about it specifically is because like a lot of people struggle with that. Like it's so tough to realize that if you can just go create value, provide value to a company, whatever it may be, you're always compensated equally, right? And a lot of these jobs that people go and get that they end up hating are jobs where you're not compensated based on the value provided, you're compensated based on the time that you trade,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And that prevents you from being able to go and live kind of above and beyond, or kind of live to the fullest, basically. But there's two really important things that I think is a big reason, because a lot of people understand that, they get that, and then there's two things you run into. So two things that could prevent someone from going and pursuing something where you're your own boss, right? Like that's kind of the idea behind it. With that is
Yeah,
you run it, you decide if you want to go on a week long trip, you get to go on a week long trip. Like if you want to go and snowboard that day, you go and snowboard that day, because that's the goal
yeah,
at the end of the day, right?
of course.
But you have to put food on the table. And there's two things that prevent that. The first thing is discipline. You don't have someone over your shoulder telling you what you need to do, right?
Yeah,
You don't have a schedule laid out for you. It's on you 100%,
yeah.
which is extremely difficult. So I want to ask you, where do you find the discipline? Like, what do you do when you start lacking discipline, when you get complacent, whatever it may be? And then the next thing, and probably the bigger one, because this prevents people from even starting or trying, is just belief. Like, where do you get the belief that it's like, yeah, dude, I'll be fine. Like, if I want to go and dive in and do this, I'll be fine. Like, it's gonna work out. I got this. Like, because at some point you went and developed that sense of belief in yourself to go and do something, which is what a lot of people lack to even go and start that job they see where it's like, okay, that would be dope, that would be cool. They don't even start because they don't even believe in themselves out the gates.
Yeah.
So I guess my first question, I want to touch on that first, is where do you find that sense of belief? Was that from somebody above you, like, or in your life that you looked up to, where they went and instilled that in you? Where would you first remember, like, okay, I got this, I can do it, like that's on me?
That belief was probably instilled in me, probably from my dad. I mean, growing up, he was always having fun on the job, like whether it was making movies or doing something else to have an amazing time while he was working. That's where I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna do that. If I'm gonna be working, I'm gonna be having a good time. I'm gonna not have to, I'm gonna hold myself accountable, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also gonna be having a good time doing it. And I don't really picture and I'm not saying you can't have a good time at a 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
I just picture that differently.
Yeah.
Um, and to also, as you said, where I get the discipline to hold myself accountable
Yeah.
to make sure that I'm pressing forward and actually hitting goals that I have. It's when I start lacking that, I immediately get back with my mentors. I start surrounding myself with people who are way better than
Mm,
me at a completely
mm,
different level. I
yep.
have to go and reconnect. I have to go and surround myself with them to know that I'm very, very small compared to where they're at right now.
I love that. I
So that
love that.
opens the door up.
So that's gold. I mean, literally from what I've found is if you can go and put yourself into a room and tell me if this is what you're kind of touching on. If you can go and put yourself into a room where you're almost uncomfortable because you're the bottom 5% of that room,
Yes.
like that sense of uncomfortability will give you the discipline you need. That'll
100%.
put the chip on your shoulder. That'll put like the also the inspiration. It's not all negative. It's not negative at all actually. It's really constructive, but it's like holy crap, like there's so much more I could be doing. Um and it makes those little things like going out and doing that task you need to do that you've been procrastinating. It makes it seem super small,
Yeah.
right? When you see other people doing things 10 times bigger than you on a much bigger scale and they're outworking you,
Yeah.
right? That's what I found. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yep.
On
Exactly.
top of that, you also mentioned like you surround yourself with people, and I think that's something that's super important. And I'm curious. This is off topic entirely, but like in your life, what have you what impact have you realized that your proximity has on you, like the people you're around? Because for me, that's probably one of, if not the most impactful thing I have ever found was proximity is power. Like who you're around determines who you become. And everybody's heard that. It's like the most oversaid, oh, you're the average of the five people you hang around the most. Like that. No one wants to hear that, but it's so freaking true. And it's like you can't disprove that. It's if you want to find somebody who's a total bum, just go look at a group of people where they're just doing nothing and they're being total slobs, right? And you want to find someone who's going to be a lot better than they are right now, go find the lowest producer in a massively high producing room, right? That
Yes.
person is going to go see the most growth. So what have you found, and kind of what's your take on that?
I couldn't agree with that more. It's the reason I am where I'm at today is because of the people I'm surrounded with.
Yep.
It's what not only motivated me to, go and do what I'm doing, but also their help has pushed me even further. And it's
Yep.
like, yeah, hands down, if I didn't have the people who are in my life right now who are amazing mentors, yeah, I'd probably be somewhere way different.
100%. And what would you say? Because I think the question that rises then is a lot of people are like, okay, well, how do you get around those people? Like, what do you do to go and get your foot in that door? You're just lucky. Like, you got blessed with somehow you ended up around this person. Like what would you say to that? Because yes, there's luck involved, absolutely, but you create your own luck in every situation, right? And
Yeah.
I could answer why I think you're able to do that, and I want to touch on that. But curious from your standpoint, like.
Yeah. I actually love this. So, me and my wife were actually we talk about this a lot because we are very blessed with who we're surrounded by. But we've also said, okay, when opportunity comes, we need to take it, whether it be a small opportunity of going on a little weekend trip with some amazing people. We need to take that opportunity because it not only gets us around other people
Mhm.
to involve ourselves and get to
And is
know
that
people.
always, I don't mean to cut you off, is that always convenient?
No, no, not at all. It's not always convenient. I mean, yeah, we've had to change things up all the time just to make something happen, and it might not be worth our time and effort to
Yep.
go do it. But it's like, no, Ellie and I have said, look, when opportunity comes, we take it, whether it be inconvenient or not, because the more opportunities that we take, the more opportunities come. So it's like,
Yep.
and I
Absolutely.
think that's why we've been blessed so much is because we have lived that way. We've
Yep.
taken all the opportunities that come our way, whether it be to try something completely new, whether it be to get out of our our state and kind of be uncomfortable and be around people that we don't know,
Yep.
that we don't have a connection with. It's like, no, we're going to make that connection. We're going to take that opportunity because we know that by taking this opportunity, more opportunities are going to come.
Yep.
And if you don't take those opportunities, people are going to start to realize that, and the door is going to slowly close and close even more.
Yep.
And less opportunities will come your way.
I love that because I see so many missed opportunities. Like I see so many people that pass up on things that could literally pivot their life, the whole trajectory of their life. And it's just because it's inconvenient. And literally your superpower, I think you're genuinely your superpower because you are extremely blessed. Like you really do. Your circle of influence is amazing. The people in your circle is amazing. Like that alone is worth more than almost anything you could go and find. And it shows like you live a freaking incredible life. But the next part to that, I think, and tell me what your thoughts are on this too. Yes, you have to seize the opportunity. You have to take advantage of it. You have to go out of your way. You have to do things that are completely uncomfortable, super inconvenient. You're whatever it may be. You're tired as hell. They invite you to go and do something, and you just do it, and you go really do it. You're not just there. You go and like I've been with you. Like you go, and anytime you're creating a new relationship, you make the effort, which is not super easy to do, and it takes a lot of energy. So that is absolutely a superpower, taking advantage of an opportunity when it presents itself, because a lot of people don't do that. The next thing that is your absolute superpower that you're probably too humble to even go and touch on is you treat people so well always that they want you around, and your wife as well. Like people, I've never ever once come across somebody who doesn't have something good to say about you. Maybe this is unique to me because I know you on that level. Like nobody has anything bad to say about Finn Bryant at all. And that's a superpower because you have a lot of opportunities to go be super uncool just because you're tired to not put in the extra effort, right? To just kind of be there, but you're never there. You're never a neutral in a group. You're always an addition. Always. Right? And that's yeah, absolutely. That's a massive superpower. Because a lot of people, and even myself, like I find myself going and being a neutral a lot of times. I'm so freaking tired. I'm just there. I'm like, yeah, bro, I'll come. I'll show up. And I show up and I'm brain dead. Right. And it's an effort. I've seen you put in the effort when you're tired because we do the same shit for 3 days. Then on the 4th day, I'm just there brain dead and you're going hard connecting with someone. I'm like, gosh, damn it. I'm like, how do I keep up? And like, that is a superpower. So I think.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. My question with that would be like, at what point in life did you realize like, because high school is a weird time and post high school is a weird time. When did you realize how important it is to treat people well? And I'm not talking about people that can do something for you. Like you treat everybody well. You really do. You make it a point, and in talking to I talked to a lot of people before you came about you, and that's kind of how I found out you played soccer when you were 3 and stuff. Like when did you go and realize the value of that? Or is that something that's just innate in you? Like you care to go and treat the server at Chick-fil-A super well, or you care to go and be really nice to that person who was a total dickhead, right? You choose to go and kind of be the bigger person, shrug it off. And I'm not saying you're perfect. I know you've probably had slip ups, absolutely. But like what in you, or what made you go and realize the importance of treating people well?
That's a good question. Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely not perfect. Got some things to work on, but I think it all comes down to like long-term thinking and long-term planning. I try, and of course I try and live in the moment as much as I can, but I'm also thinking of like long-term, like, okay, is, this person who may or may not have treated me the best, is it worth it for me to treat them incorrectly back in the long run? It's such a, like, life is such a small thing. It's like,
and you can get so caught up in those things. If you're not looking at that through the right lens, if you're looking at that like in the moment, right? It's like whatever that small thing is, that can get you riled up. That can get a response out of you, which only makes it worse and worse and worse and worse. So, I mean, that's gold. You just look at it with a long-term view.
And I mean, that there definitely have been some times where when somebody gets me worked up, I can get fired up, and I try not to, of course, but it's just more, I would say more long-term, and just, is it really worth it? Treating people the best and treating people as best as you can is always worth it. Yep. You never look back and say, oh, I regret treating that person the way the best I could. You never regret that.
Yeah,
So I think it's just more of a long term way of thinking. So
absolutely. No, I think that's gold. I really wanted to touch on that because I seriously think that is one of your superpowers that maybe, and maybe I'm giving it too much credit. I think that's truly gone and gotten you a lot of what you've gone and gotten out of life. I really think so. So
thank
hats
you.
off to you. It's inspiring to see. It's really cool to see, and it's something I try and mimic all day.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
so kind of pivoting, I have a few things I really want to dive into, but my first thing, and this is kind of my favorite question to ask anyone. Anytime I sit down with anyone, I love to go and see, okay, like in your life, like wherever it is for you though, when I say it, like what kind of pops into your head? What are like your lows? Like whether that be business, what are like your moments where you're like everything's out the window, you don't care, like this is the low of the low, this is you getting freaking defeated, like that moment where it's like it's just so bad that you can't even see the good because you're really good at seeing the good. So there's probably not many moments that come to mind. It might be hard for you to think of, but like where is that point in time? And if you don't mind sharing, like what was going on? What was that like?
The low of the lows is probably it all comes down to when I compare myself with others, especially like um I don't know, comparing myself to somebody who is like just having amazing success and comparing myself in a bad way. Because comparing yourself in a good way can be good. Like, hey, I'm they're here, I'm here. There's so much I can do better. How am I going to do it?
Yep.
But if you compare yourself in a bad way, it's like, okay, they're here, I'm here. What the hell am I doing? And why am I here and not there?
And you start to
And
envy
you just
them,
start
and
to get down on yourself. Hey, they're way better than I am, and
yep.
and all of a sudden I go into this deep hole and I just don't do anything to get out, and it's just puts me into a depressed state.
Is there a
And
point in time you remember specifically where you were in like that deep hole? And I touch on it because a lot of people listening, like you go and listen to podcasts and everyone's talking about all the good, all the great. And it's like, dude, the biggest thing to go and realize is everybody is going through it. Everybody's going through it. And when you can go and freaking put those glasses on and look at people as if like, oh, dude, he could really be going through it, right? Then not only the most important part, you don't feel alone anymore, right?
yeah,
You feel like, okay, there's more than just me feeling like absolute shit, right? At certain points and still look at how good their life is. Look at where they're at right now. And maybe I'm talking to you and you're in one of those holes. I don't know, right? That being
yeah,
said, it's like, it's so important to realize A, you're not alone. B, these people who are doing well in life, however you frame that, right? Whatever success is defined to you, those people, they have the peaks and they have the valleys just like you, right?
yeah,
And the worst thing you can go and do is put yourself on an island and be like, no, like, no way, Finn's so freaking happy. Look how good his life. No way he's ever felt like this. Or any of these people you look at, anyone in life,
yeah.
right? So is there a specific time or a story or
One
anything where
hundred
it's like,
percent.
yeah, dude,
Yeah.
this was a valley. If you don't mind sharing, this was a
Oh yeah.
valley.
Yeah. So let's say I think this was 2016, end of summer. So I had went on the doors with
There we go. A lot of valleys on the doors,
with
bro.
Rossiter.
I
And
love
let me
it.
tell you,
I
hands
love
down, it
it.
was the best experience ever. We had a blast of a summer. I mean, yeah, there was definitely some hard knocking days, and trust me, I did not sell well.
Yep.
I didn't come home from the summer with cash filled
So to put
pockets.
to put into perspective, you went out, you moved. So what the on the doors means, moved across country, right, out of your home state, alone with a group of guys. You got dropped off every day for 12-hour days, knocking on doors, cold calling people, trying to push a product.
Yeah,
Right, probably one of the grittiest, hardest things you could possibly do as a young adult.
100%.
Absolutely. So continue just to put into
Um,
perspective.
Memphis, we were in Memphis, Tennessee, actually. You've had experience there.
Yep.
So, anyways, it's funny because I look back at the summer and it's just all good times with those boys. I don't really remember the doors just slammed in my face. I mean, I do,
Yep.
but the other things trump that.
Yep.
But I remember probably the end of July, beginning of August, I come home and I'm just so down on myself. I went into this depressed state, like, then you kind of screwed yourself. You didn't hit your goals. You didn't make it to where you wanted to be. You didn't come home with some cash. You didn't.
Yep.
And I just dug myself into a deep hole, and I've probably never been more depressed. And
Yeah.
I remember not coming out of my room for probably 4 or 5 days straight. I would just eat and go back in my room.
Yeah.
And
Which is not your personality.
Not my personality at all. And I remember some of my friends were like, Finn, what's gotten into you? What are you doing? Come on. And it took me a while to dig myself out of that hole. And, but that's probably one of the biggest holes I've been in, is just looking back and saying, look, I didn't do what I wanted to do. I didn't come out and make a ton of money, and I didn't show people who I really was. And yeah, that time was hard, but
no, I appreciate that, by the way. Thank you. And you said something really cool. But before that, what are some things you did? 'Cause you're there, right? You just got your face kicked in, however you see it. Now you see it as like, you only see the good, which is really cool. And I want to talk about that. But right now you're in the hole. Like you are not coming out of your room. You're getting smoked. Like you're in the hole. We'll call it, you're in your valley, right?
yeah.
You're in your valley of all valleys. What are some things you did, or what helped, or who helped, or what was a change that was made that kind of helped you start back up? Because a hole, dude, rule number one with holes, when you're in a hole, you stop digging,
Yeah.
right? And something triggers you to stop digging, and then you start climbing. Like, what was that little switch for you? Did it just get so drug on? You're like, dude, time to swap it up, or what happened?
No,
What did you do?
So the stop digging point was I think it was just connecting with people again. So I started hanging out with my friends again, and I started being around people that were uplifting and brought good energy and were happy. And so when you're surrounded by those people, your spirits obviously get lifted up as well.
Yep.
So that was the starting point. And then after that, it just became, after you surround yourself with amazing friends, surround yourselves with mentors, and find people that are successful. And then it all built up from there.
So going right back to proximity.
Exactly. 100%.
Your baseline was raised by the people you were surrounded by. Even being surrounded by people in general was a good way to start climbing and stop digging.
100%. If I'm not surrounded by people, I get into my thoughts, and I start taking myself all different ways. So I need to be surrounded by good people that constantly keep me on my game.
I love it. That's so powerful. And you mentioned something right at the very beginning of talking about that. You said, like, thinking back now, all I remember is the good times. Like, I don't even remember getting wrecked. Like, I don't even remember the hard stuff, right? Which is so freaking true. Like, and I think why that's true, like, to me, what I've found is the best things, like my most just excited moments of my life, like the times where I cry, I'm so happy. Like those moments, those freaking peaks that I'm talking about, like your Mount Everest peaks in life, are typically right after you just dug yourself in the deepest hole you've ever been in, right? And honestly, what I've found is the deeper the freaking hole, the higher the peak, the better it ends up being after everything's all said and done. I'm not saying it's like, oh, go find things to put yourself in a shitty state. Like, no, right? But the reason you were in that state wasn't just because you were being a bum and all that. It was because you went and did something incredibly hard, very out of your comfort zone, felt like a failure, even though you weren't, because look how much you got out of it, right? But in the moment, that's what it felt like. Started comparing yourself to other people. And then, like, I would argue a lot of your peaks are only because you got that low at that point. Not to mention, you can now go and look at things through, holy crap, if things have been that bad, look how good it is right now. But if you always lived life freaking flatlining, it never feels that good.
Yeah.
Right? But if you have something to go, the contrast from here to here is massive rather than from here to here. Right? That contrast is extremely fulfilling. It feels amazing. And then, like, when you get out of a hole, that feeling alone, even if nothing incredible happened to you, like, you probably felt so good just getting back in the rhythm of things, right?
Yeah,
so I think that's super, super cool. And I love that answer. Like, thank you for sharing. That's really, really cool. And I think a lot of people relate. And then kind of what I want to wrap up on, and kind of the conversation I want to wrap up on, you've mentioned a few things. You've mentioned being surrounded by like top one percenters is what I call them, like the people that are literally the best of the best, right? Um, and I want to take some time to really dive into this because that's one thing that I feel super blessed with as well. Is I've gotten to go and not only be around these people, but I get to watch them and then I've also gone further. I've interviewed a lot of these people, and that's kind of the origin, the point of this podcast. Some very, very crucial conversations in my life have completely changed the way I look at things, completely changed the way I've done things, and really, I think shaped my life into what it is. So you've mentioned that you get you get to be around a lot of these people, right? You get to be surrounded by these people that are extremely influential, way better than you in a lot of aspects, things you strive to do, all of that. What are some things you've learned, like the most important takeaways you have from, or some things you've seen? Like for me, I'm extremely, extremely, extremely aware of what's going on around me, and I'm very observant. I watch more than people think. I really do. Um, and I've pieced together like this image of what top one percenters are, right? Because I'm surrounded by them all the time, and I'm like, okay, they all do this, they all do this, they all do this, they all do this. None of them do that,
Mhm.
right? And then I've also gotten the advice from as well. But I think more important is the things I've seen them do, right? But what would you say? Like, what are some of the biggest things you've learned from those influences that you've implemented to get where you're at, right? To go and be able to roll out again your cold plunge company in a matter of a few months, right? After the idea was in your head, like, oh yeah, and it's fully manufactured, like no shortcuts, no corners cut, like top of the end, not a space you've ever been a part of, right? Like, what are some things you've learned to be able to go and implement to do that, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are the most important things you feel like you've learned or seen from those people?
I think one of the most important is how my mentors think. They think big. They think on a completely different level than somebody else. They aren't small-minded thinkers. They
Yeah.
think enormously big. And so when you think big, the amount you can achieve is completely different. And whether it be that you achieve that or not, that is beside the point. It's just a matter of thinking big. If I didn't think that I could go and create an amazing luxury plunge, I would probably be creating a simple little trough with some ice in it, and it's like, no, I'm going to think big. I'm thinking big because I want to have the best luxury cold plunge on the market. I want to be a dominant piece in the cold plunge industry. I don't want to just be a little competitor. I want to own the whole market.
Yep.
And so all of my mentors, they all think big.
Yep.
And I think that's gotten them to where they're at. And
Yep.
that's a huge point. And another point is they're always learning and always growing, whether it be reading books or whether it be learning from other individuals or
Yep.
whether it be trying something new that they've never been a part of before. They're learning.
Yep.
They're always learning. And so with that, they are in incredibly different spots than they would have been had they not been learning all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. On that though, right? You say think big, right? Totally. But what if it doesn't work out? Right? Like it just works for those people, right?
Yeah.
I hear that so much. Like, oh, it's like different for him. It's like, no, dude, you have no idea, right? Like I get really defensive of other people's success. I get extremely defensive of other people's success, and if I know someone, even if I don't know them, but I know where they're at, and I hear someone like downplaying their success, I get fired up. That's one of the few things that fires me up because I know behind every success story you freaking open that door, there are so many failures,
Yeah.
right? And in thinking big, that's where the failures come from, right? And you've obviously had projects, I assume, where they didn't work out. You didn't go dominate that industry,
Yeah.
right? And you
100%.
had every intention of doing it, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
that being said, knowing that full and well going into things, right?
Yeah.
What's your viewpoint on failure? Like what's a failure?
I think a failure is probably just another door slammed in your face. I mean, you know that so much that it's for all these door knockers, another failure is just another door slammed. It's not like you give up and you go home.
Yep.
You got to keep knocking. A sale is going to be around the corner. You just
Exactly.
got to keep knocking. And that's how it is with failures. Yeah, I've tried a couple different other ventures and definitely didn't go the way I planned. And I put in a lot of effort and put in some money, and yeah, it didn't go as planned. And we did think really big. We thought we were going to dominate the market in a couple of these things, and yeah, it didn't happen. But looking back, I learned so much.
Yep.
And I just took it as another door slammed in the face, and I moved on.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because I think a very common denominator I've found, and the way that you look at it's the same way as like these top people think about it. So it's super cool because you're so young, and a lot of people don't figure it out. But literally, like the only time you fail is when you just quit. Like when you throw the towel in, that's when you fail. Like that's when you lose.
Yeah.
You cannot beat someone who doesn't quit, right? So regardless of how many ventures you have that don't work out, you keep going until you figure it out. That's the story behind every door of every successful multi-million dollar business owner, like everybody in every situation. And I like to go and apply these principles because I learn a lot of these principles through a business book or like a business mentor because it's very, very clear. Like business is clear. Believe it or not, business is extremely spiritual, which means you can take the lessons from business and plug them into anything in life, is what I found.
Yeah.
But it's very clear, and kind of what you just said and what you just touched on is like, dude, a failure is not a failure. Like I learned so much from those things. And you've lost money. Like I know some of these situations. I'm with you on some of these situations.
Yeah.
You've lost like substantial amounts of money and time and effort and energy. And like I think something that I've been able to go and embody, and I know you've embodied because I've seen it, is like you find the good. Like, dude, I learned this, and this out of this, right? Rather than what a lot of people, because we're conditioned to go and look at the bad and like oh, woe is me, like ponder on the shit, right? Like you go and you seriously you extract the good out of everything, and that is I think that is one of the biggest secrets to not only success in business, applying this other places, like a successful home life, right? Being a good dad, right? Being a good friend, right? Being a good business partner, being good in business, right? Being a good stranger. Like that's a category I look at 100%. And for all of these categories, like seriously, one of the biggest just is there's no failure until you go and quit. So yes, you're going to go and slip up. Yes, you're not going to get the results you want every time. Yes, if you think big, you're probably going to fail more than someone who thinks small.
Yeah.
That being said, those failures are not failures. Those are actually springboards. Those are the things that go and help you get where you want to go. Like those are the things that go and shape you into the kind of person that you are and that you want to go and become, right?
100%.
So
Yeah.
I love that. I really, really love that. And then one thing I want to talk about too, because you mentioned long-term vision a little bit earlier, is like something I think about when I think of long-term vision. I love that you brought that up because I don't actively think about it often, but it's always in the back of my head, right? Is what do you want to be remembered for in 15 years, right? And I don't know if you've ever really thought about that. In a Brian Tracy book, it's called like your legacy story. Like you want to go write your legacy story. If you died tomorrow and everyone goes to your funeral, like what do you want written about you? Like, hey, Finn was this. And if you keep those things in mind, that's like a true north. Like you keep those things in mind, everything you do in life will be aligned with that. You'll feel like, in my opinion, you'll feel good about it. And I'm curious, like, what are those things for you? Like when you think of your legacy story on your tombstone, what do you want to have written about Finn? Like, what do you want to have people remember you by? Because they're not going to remember all the little things that you could get caught up on. They're not going to remember any of that.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to remember the other things, which is, again, a true north because everything's a spiritual game. And if you can go and implement this kind of stuff into your business, your home, everything like that, I think that's when things align. That's when you see people genuinely extracting the most out of life. For you, like, what is your true north? What's your legacy story, if you've ever thought about that?
Yeah, I have. I think the biggest thing that I want to be remembered for is probably just that I treated everybody the best that I could in that situation. I want to be remembered as somebody who was kind and loving, but also treated everybody as if they were going to give me massive amounts of money. Like,
Yep.
I mean, money isn't that big of an issue. Yeah, it gets us through life, but at the end of life, it's not.
But that's a good way to approach the homeless man on the corner or the random person trying to have a conversation.
And if you think of it, if somebody's going to give you massive amounts of money, you're probably going to treat them the best you can. You don't want to get on their bad side because they could say, I'm not going to give you that money.
Exactly.
But I just want to treat.
I love that.
I want to treat everybody like they're worth something. Like they're like,
yep.
Just treat everybody the best. I think that's going to get. That's what I want on my tombstone. That I treated everybody really well, the best I could. I treated them like a friend, a best friend.
I love that.
But yeah.
No, I love that answer. And I think one of the biggest reasons I wanted to have you on is because the whole point of this, like today's the day, what is today's the day? What does that mean? Blah, blah, blah. And we've gone and explained it and dove into it. But really, at the end of the day, it's like, this is all you got, right? Like that legacy story could be a real thing. Like that tombstone could be written. Like, who knows? Knock on wood, God forbid it ever happen. That could happen, right? So if today's the day, like, okay, that's how you're going to be remembered. Like today is how you're going to be remembered. So you go and you extract the most out of every interaction you have. You extract whatever it may be, whether you're going and this is why I had you on, because I think you approach, whether you realize it or not, you do approach every day like it's the day, right? Like if we're having fun, you're having the most fun out of anyone, right?
Yeah.
Like if we're getting shit done, you're getting the most shit done out of anyone, right? And I think you always try and do that. You're trying to go and get the most out of your day you possibly can. You're always doing something. And if you're having a conversation, you're going to go have the deepest, best conversation you can possibly have, regardless of who that person is, just like you're saying. So, dude, I've loved the conversation. I think this has been absolutely perfect. This is exactly why I wanted to have you on here. I think whether you realize it or not, you really do go embody that. And I'm just super grateful. Is there anything else you would care to share? Like any last, like, dude, if there's one thing to remember, one thing to get out of this is what I'd say. What would that be for you?
I really appreciate you having me on here, dude. I couldn't thank you enough. It's been an amazing friendship between you and I. So I've learned a ton from you, and I just really appreciate you having me on here. And I think everybody needs to take a listen to Today's the Days podcast. I think you'll gain an immense amount of knowledge, if not have a little fun, you know?
Absolutely. Boom, baby. Today's the day. I freaking love you, bro.
Love you, dude.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. As always, it was a blast for me. I hope you got something out of this. If you got something out of this video of value, share this with a friend, and please go show your love. We're on all streaming platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Any ratings, comments, likes, shares, they go a very long way, and they make it so I can keep doing these things for you, and I would appreciate it greatly. So please go share with a friend. Until next time.